Hello folks, it is time for some more hobby nightmares. I hope you're all having a wonderful day and things are going all very well with you. It is Wednesday today, well we're recording this on Tuesday, but it is Wednesday. Let's dive in to some hobby nightmares. It is Wednesday in your world, and today we have a five-a-side football hobby nightmare, which is right up my alley. It's right up my alley. So let's jump in. We've got two GW ones, which is cool, and a five-a-side football one. So we'll go in reverse order. Why not? Let's jump in with Matthew. I hope you're doing well, Matthew. He says, "Hello, Mr. North. Matthew here. I hope life is treating you well." It is, mate. Yeah, thank you. Today, I wanted to share with you a couple of experiences my friends and I have had with one of the local game stores. None of these are as bad as other stories read on the channel, I suppose, but the quantity and consistency of these events start to test one's patience, and probably yours. I was hesitant to share most of these, since I was not personally there for some of them. However, some of our friends who have just started playing Warhammer have been discouraged from the hobby because of these events. This list is pretty long, and I'll do my best to keep it as simple as possible. The following names will be used throughout the stories that are about to follow. Me, my name is Matthew, hello. My brother, Midas, an Imperial Knight and Caradron Overlords player. Our friends, Guts, an Ogre player. Sean, a Necron and Gloomspite Git player. Oscar, a Necron player. And Cadet, an Imperial Guard and Seraphon player. Alright, cool. Alright. The overall vibe of the store feels like you're playing in somebody's house when you walk in. The painting tables are covered with personal belongings. Cartoons are playing on the TVs. Some of the regulars have gotten multiple strikes, way more than 3. A couple of people walk around without their shoes. This isn't necessarily bad. Yes, it is. It's a health code violation. Yes, it is. Like that is against health and safety. So, like when I was at university and we had like a canteen, obviously, because, you know, there were people who come down like sandals and stuff, you know, with bare feet, and people were like, no, dude, that's unacceptable. Like that is really dirty. You don't want that around where you're cooking, right? You know, we're not in your house. We're not in your house, you know. So please don't do that, right? Yeah, you're not supposed to do it. Simple as. This isn't necessarily bad, but the other game store the other hobby store we started playing at is quiet, clean, and overall nicer environment to play at. Well, I think you've solved your own hobby nightmare there, dude. You've got a new place. The local community is a competitive environment. This is fine if you want a challenge, but when a beginner games involve stomping the new player with a meta list, it turns people away until it's the same 4 or 5 people playing in the store. Yeah, a tale as old as time. That is an absolute tale as old as time. That is A1 how it goes. Alright? This is why I've always advocated for keeping those two parts of the hobby separate. You can feel free to play in either one that you want to, absolutely. And you can switch between doing tournament play and normal play. But mixing them together just results in, most of the time, the narrative players, the 90-odd% of the people who play this hobby, walking away. Okay? If you're running a hobby store and you cater to tournament players, you're ignoring and discouraging a good 80 to 90% of your customer base. Congrats. Right? Don't do it. Don't do it. Have tournaments that you run in the store. Have leagues that you run in the store. Absolutely. Right? Cater to those people too. But the vast majority of your hobby time day to day needs to be normal people coming in to throw some dice and have some fun playing 40k. If you don't do that, and you wonder why your store tanks, A1, that's what it is. You know, Games Workshop got that memo, but they went far too much in the other direction. Games Workshop say, hey, we don't do games at all in our stores. We do introduction games for new people. We do narrative introduction games for new people, and that's it. They went way too far in the other direction of, you know, tournament players aren't welcome here. Don't want that either, do you know what I mean? We want a nice balance. Anyway. You could be doing anything in the game store, but as soon as you mention Warhammer, somebody will either flock to your location or try and have a conversation with you from across the room. There was one point when one of the regulars, a grown man, would wah at the slightest mention of orcs. I heard it could be up to 3 times a day. Orders through the store can be weird at times. One time, the store owner came up to a random customer and said, dude, your figure has been sitting behind the counter for 6 months. Do you want to pick it up? The customer was shocked. No one told me it came in. I just assumed it was on back order, he replied. Well, it's here, and I'm tired of seeing it. Please pick it up. I pre-ordered the Leviathan box set. The day before it released, I got off work late. I thought to myself, I won't be able to pick it up tomorrow. It wouldn't hurt to see if I can pick it up tonight. I drove to the store before it closed. When I walked in, the store owner asked if I needed anything. He was sitting in the back with some of the other 40k players, and I said, well, I was hoping I could pick up the Leviathan box. I've got time now, but not tomorrow. He shook his head. I'm completely sold out. No one else can get a hold of one. The employee who helped me pre-order held up a finger. He's actually here to pick up his box, so we've got it. He almost seemed nervous for speaking up. The store owner got up from working on 2 screamer killers and said, well, I guess it depends how much I like him. To be fair, it wasn't supposed to come out until the next day, but the attitude threw me off and made me not want to order anything through the store again. Dude. Alright, I was ready to jump down your throat here because as soon as you said I came to the store early to pick up my order when it's not out till the next day, if you were going to complain to me that you couldn't get your order a day early when it doesn't even release till the next day, I was going to say, yeah, you're a bit of an idiot because, like, they're legally not allowed to give you that box. And if GW find out that they did give you that box a day early, they will lose their business. Right? They will lose their Games Workshop business. They will walk away from them, right? So, you are not entitled to early releases from any store. Just saying. No one is. Okay? And if I was running a store, it would never happen. I'd never give you anything early. I'd give you freebies. Yeah, you know what kind of a guy I'm like. You know, I'd give you white dwarfs and paints and stuff. Yeah, no, on one-offs. No problem. But you're not getting anything out of my hands early. I'm not risking my business so you can have your toys a day early. Sorry. But his attitude here, this means this manager is actually giving away things a few days before they're due to release, which is bad. Don't ever do that. Don't you ever do that. That's ridiculous. You're risking your entire business to get some clout. Not only that, he isn't consistent with it, right? I guess it depends how much I like him. Get in the sea, mate. What an idiot. Don't like this dude at all. Lovely tea. That cheers me up. Right, moving on. Sean, who is our Necron and Gloomspite Git player, is meeting at the store to play his first game of one-page rules with his Necrons. These are his first models, and he feels pretty good about his paint job. Someone walks by, takes a look at the models, and then walks away. Sean hears him talking to another one of the regulars. I don't understand why people let their kids paint their models instead of getting them commissioned. It ruins their value, he's saying. Wow. Wow. Dude, like, and Necrons aren't difficult to paint, so I'm guessing that your Necrons weren't that bad either. One of the regulars is talking to Guts. If you remember, he is our Ogre player. Asking him to try 40k. Guts says, I don't know. It just seems like Space Marines fighting each other all the time. It's not really my thing. The guy acted insulted. There are all kinds of other armies in 40k. For perspective, most 40k armies played in the store are Space Marines, Custodes, maybe some Sisters of Battle, and the occasional Eldar. Guts then says, I'm not a fan of the sci-fi aesthetic. I like fantasy, you know? The guy doubles down and brings up orcs and psychers, completely ignoring the fact that... oh my god. That Guts just isn't interested. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, you know. Guts has just started playing Age of Sigmar at this point. Midas let him borrow the core rulebook to head through and learn more about the game. One of the regulars, every day, for weeks, keeps asking Guts to play. Guts, every time he says, I told you, I'll play when I'm ready, I'm still just reading through the rules. The guy will say something like, oh, that's okay, I don't know how to play either. He is a 40k player, and has suddenly shown an interest in Age of Sigmar when our group started playing. A side note here, the last time I played against this guy was a 1500 point game of 40k with my Genestealer Cult army, over half of it being a deep strike. Take a wild guess how long this game took. 7 hours. My God. Yeah, this seems like... I know a lot of people... This doesn't seem like a very extreme hobby nightmare, but I know a lot of people are going to be nodding along going, yeah, this has happened in my store. Like, this is absolutely happened in my store. Anyway. Who are we going with next? It's Oscar, the Necron player. So, Oscar wants to learn how to play 40k. He's seen us and others play and wants to join in. Oscar has told us he'd like to play with us some more, but with life and stuff, it's pretty hard to meet up. 2 of the regulars have been teaching Oscar, quote-unquote. One day, Midas, my brother, is able to meet up for a game. When he and Oscar arrive at the store, Midas asks, so, what are you bringing in your list? North, I cannot stress this enough. Okay. This was Oscar's 4th game, and Oscar was never taught how to make a list. He hardly knew how to read a Unix datasheet. Oscar was grateful that my brother taught him how to make a list, but nobody at the store had bothered showing him, just beating him every single time he turned up. Okay. I'm going to read this last one. This one goes on for a while, so I'm going to read this last one, and then I'm probably going to skip the others, mate. I'm sorry. But, like, you know... Yeah, you need to find another store, and I think you've already done so. So, you know, I'll read this last one, but I'm not going to read all 15 of these, okay? All right. Anytime Oscar had a question mid-game, his opponent, when he was playing them, would say something along the lines of, oh, I don't know. This frustrated Oscar because he wants to learn how to play. He would text Midas and I rules questions after his games, the usual confusing interactions. But there was one text that stood out from the rest. Oscar texted, quick question. When it says 10 Necron warriors on 90 points, does that mean per model? We were shocked at the question. I texted back, no, it's 90 points for the 10 models. He replied, oh, I've been playing it wrong this whole time. It was at this time I actively tried to find... It was at this time I tried to find time for us to meet. We eventually met up at our apartment, but instead of playing a small game, we sat down and went through some of his questions. At the end of the day, Oscar had a better understanding of the rules. Oscar and I did have a 1,000 point beginner's game a few days later. I brought a tower list, a mixture of infantry, battlesuits, vehicles, crew and vespids. It was a good game, and in the end, Oscar won. He even got to test out his Void Dragon against my Hammerhead, which was awesome. Okay. Alright, Alright, so I'm going to leave these ones there. Dude, that was out. There's a lot there, right? I can't read all of those because we'll be here all day. But I get the gist, right? It's a terrible place to go and do your hobby. Dude, you've mentioned that you found somewhere else that was good. Just frequent that place. Just frequent that place. That's now your new place, okay? Awful place to go and play your hobby. This sounds to me like a really amateur hour like hobby store. If it looks like it's from somebody's front room, definitely. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, we have another one from Revan, folks. And this is the one I was really looking forward to looking at. Hello, North, he says. It's Revan again. Thanks again for reading my last nightmare. You did a tremendous job of bringing it to life. I have a few minutes spare, so I figured I'd send in another hobby nightmare. This one concerns a somewhat underrepresented hobby on the channel. Football. It concerns how the last competitive game of football I played ended and the consequences of it. Football, or soccer, gag. No, actually. Do you know who the first people to call the game soccer were? The English. We called it soccer first. Right? Now it is football because we kick the ball with our feet. Okay? Americans play hand egg. That's what they play, right? They have an egg-shaped ball that they carry most of the time. They play hand egg. Yeah. Rugby's rugby, hand egg is hand egg. Or gridiron if you're being posh. Football is football, right? But yeah, we did invent the term soccer. Like we invented every single other thing that the Americans like. But anyway, moving on. Apart from shooting each other. Football is something I've adored since I was around 5. I played in school teams, work teams, youth leagues, or just down the park or on the road with friends. This particular tale comes from about 2021, when a group of friends and I decided to join a local 5-a-side league. For anybody who doesn't know, five-a-side football is basically played on a 40-yard by 30-yard court. There are no sidelines. Instead, the pitches are lined by boards. You cannot play the ball above the boards. The metal studs on your boots, or cleats for my transatlantic cousins, are strictly prohibited. Instead, plastic moulded boots are the go-to footwear, and shin pads are a must. The game is played with 20-minute halves. It's rolling substitutes. The goals are 4 feet tall and 12 feet wide. There are no slide tackles allowed. It is played with 4 outfield players, 1 goalkeeper, and a maximum of 3 substitutes, and involves a hell of a lot of running. Yeah, it's really good for cardio, man. Very good for cardio. Now that's out of the way, we can get on with the hobby nightmare. As I said earlier, a group of us decided to join a league at our local goals centre. We all lived pretty locally. It's easy enough to get to. This allowed us to meet up for a bit, maybe get a cheeky couple of beers after, and some of which may have been in the local car park. And North, there is no other way to say this, we were shite. I love you guys. I love you. Like this is it, right? A bunch of dudes who aren't very good at football saying, sod it, we're doing it. We're doing it every single week. I love it. A bunch of soon-to-be 29-year-olds, over half of whom hadn't played an actual football match since they were 18. We were never going to set the world alight, let's be honest. In our defence, though, I don't think we ever expected the league to be as physical as it was. Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, right? As somebody who's played five-a-side football, there are people who take it way too seriously. Like, I once was in a match against a team who had an actual manager, like an actual coach, giving them tactical decisions, right? I swear to God, he had a tracksuit top on, but I swear to God, he had like suit pants on and shoes. I'm like, dude, do you think you're in the Premier League or something? What's going on? He's like, yeah, you go round the back. It's like, dude, calm down. Like, do you see our bellies? Your team doesn't need to work hard to beat us. He lost, by the way, they lost. But like, I'm just saying, your team doesn't need to work that hard to beat us. We're not very good. Anyway. And that's why I got out of it. So many people took it way too seriously. Anyway. I'm talking people flying into challenges, like they're playing in a World Cup final or something, and the last defender to stop the other team's star striker from going clean through on goal or something like that. So, often, unnecessarily, way over the top. The referees are mostly still at school and expected to control a game where they're the youngest person on the pitch, often by nearly 10 years. All for about £55 a week. Basically, it's a recipe for bloody disaster. By this point of the season, we've started to get a few points on the board, and we're all feeling pretty good despite a couple of incidents, one of which was our goalkeeper storming off home after a hefty loss, milliseconds after the final whistle, without saying a word to any of us. Then again, he is a Tottenham supporter, so we couldn't expect much else. Shade. Shade thrown. They did win the Europa League though, man. I mean, you know. Like, I know there are a few fan bases who have terrible reputations in the UK. Like, there's a few. As an Evertonian, I'm glad to say my team isn't one of them. Every time I say, oh, I'm an Evertonian, everybody I ever meet goes, great, oh, fantastic, brilliant, you know. Apart from if you're a Liverpool fan, then they hate us. But everyone else, even Man United fans, are like, oh, yeah, we like Everton, they're cool. You guys are nice. Yeah. Sorry, I got some miso soup for my lunch. Anyway. Okay. But also, he was getting fed up with having the living daylights kicked out of us by whoever we played each week. We found out who we were playing against that week. It was the team at the top of the league. Reinforcements were required. North, I'm almost ashamed to admit it, but we brought in a ringer. Okay. Those of you who don't know what a ringer is, it's when you get an external guy who's really good at football to join your team for the week, right? Now, I've seen professional footballers turn up at five-a-side tournaments, like literal professional, you know, maybe not Premier League standard, but like the level below, the Championship, League 1, League 2. I've seen those players turn up to actual games of five-a-side to help their mates. Yeah, it's low. It's low. But like, if you just know a good footballer, do you know what I mean? that's not really a ringer. It's just some guy, you know. Do you know what I mean? But a professional footballer, or somebody who used to be a professional footballer, that's definitely a ringer. Anyway, a guy we went to school with and lived mere meters from one of our players who played for Wokingham and Embrook FC. Again, yeah, he's not professional, so it's not really a ringer in my opinion, but there we go. He was also first aid trained. In the business, we call this foreshadowing. I love this Hobby Nightmare, man. I'm really enjoying this. So the lads and I turned up for the game. And you know, when you have a gut feeling something is about to happen, this was one of those times. The moment the referee blew kickoff, the game became stupidly physical. They body checked us into the boards like it was the NHL. I got subbed off within the first 5 minutes, primarily because the boys were concerned I'd get hurt, as I'm a relatively slight chap. That's how physical we're talking, Jesus. But one guy on their team took the cake. We'll call him Roy, after Roy Keane. I considered Duncan, after Duncan Ferguson, but Roy seemed a better fit for reasons that will become obvious. He looked genuinely offended that we'd even shown up to play his team. He fouled me once or twice, and the rest of my team on multiple occasions. Shoulder barges, standing on your toes, proper Sunday League shithousery. But the game goes on, I suppose. Much to our surprise, and their chagrin, we took a 1-0 lead. I don't remember much of the goal, as it was all overshadowed by later events, but I remember I was on the pitch for it. This only made them more aggressive. The game went on a bit more before the inevitable happened, and we went down 2-1. Great. I'm off the pitch by this point, but we're playing well. Then it happened. Alright. A loose ball rolls into the centre. Not even halfway through the first half. Our organiser sprints for it, and so does Roy. A classic 50-50 tackle, right? One issue. Roy decided that he wouldn't go for the ball. Oh, no. He was going for my mate's shin. Wow. North, no word of a lie, you could hear the crack from behind our goal. We later found out Roy had gone in so hard that he actually cracked my mate's shin pad. Both players hit the deck. But guess who's the one screaming? Of course, it's Roy. Brilliant. Good. He's writhing on the ground like he's been poleaxed, clutching his shin. My mate gets up and comes over to join us, along with the rest of the team, to work out what's just happened. This is where we found the crack in my mate's shin pad. The referee goes to check on him. Roy tells him to get lost. We then realised Roy was still on the floor, so our ringer went over to help, telling him he's a qualified first aider and he's trying to help. Roy, I'm telling you now, Roy is play acting to try not getting sent off for his tackle. Roy then, shall we say, tells him to go forth and procreate and not to touch him. Our ringer comes back. If the guy doesn't want our help, tough. He's in this situation through his own doing after all. First aiders from goals come to help, and again, he's screaming at them not to touch him. So, goals call an ambulance, as no other course of action was left to them. We are all still there, looking around, unsure of what to do. The ref then came over and told us that the game would need to be abandoned due to the injury. I guess there was paperwork or something they needed to do, so they couldn't carry on. As no one had had a situation like this before, we asked what would happen with the game. We discussed replaying the game at a later date, as we were still quite early in the match, and it seemed to be the fairest option. The ref seemed to agree, and we left it at that. So in a pretty deflated mood, and more than a little pissed off at Roy's flying shin breaker, we made our way home. A few days pass, and we did find out what happened. North, what was the outcome of this? Will the game be replayed? Will it be chalked up as a draw, as it was abandoned so early? It was ruled that we lost 2-1, despite the match being abandoned, despite not being even a quarter of the way through. We lost, officially. Well, that straw broke the camel's back for us. We universally decided to withdraw from the league. It just wasn't worth it. And with what happened to my mate, we all kind of agreed it was too close for comfort, and sooner or later, one of us was ending up going to get seriously hurt. I've never played five-a-side since, and neither has our organiser. That's the nightmare. Thanks for reading this, North. Best of luck with Exile Fest. I'm gutted I won't be able to attend, but maybe next time. Sending you my best to your family. All the best to you too, Revan. Okay. Yeah. This is pretty shocking. This is pretty bad. Like this is not good. But this kind of a thing happens in football all the time, man, in five-a-side. That's why I don't play it, right? For every one really good story I come across, where a bunch of dudes are just having a good time, there's always more where it's just like a bunch of utter shitheads ruining it for everybody else. Yeah, I'm serious. Just every single time. It's not worth it. And by the way, you know, if the ball can go over shoulder height, that means that the ball can be played away from your feet. There's no... tackles aren't flying in all the time, do you know what I mean? Because there are other ways to play the game. In five-a-side football, you're almost forced into these 50-50 tackles with people. So if you're against a team of shitheads, and I've come across so many of them in my time, who like get in your face and stuff, and out of a stupid game of football nobody really cares about, yeah, that's when people get hurt, right? You know, it just... Yeah, I don't bother. Anyway, let's go over to, I think it is going to be... Okay, you've not given me any other names, so I'm going to have to call you by your real one. Yeah. Okay, we'll call you Patrick, because that's your real name. But that's I don't know why... Yeah, you've not really said any other thing here. Anyway, let's jump in, shall we? Hi again, Nor. Thanks for reading out my last email about chasing the shoplifter through the streets of Chester. Stop, thief, stop. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Dude, they did. They did. Absolutely. Absolutely. As I told you before... Oh, here we go. Right, yeah, so you do. A few lines into your hobby nightmare. Okay. As I told you before, my name is Eric. Excellent. A Scot from the outskirts of Glasgow. I worked for Games Workshop during the 90s. After listening to Leslie's recent story about his nightmare time playing his first game in a busy, noisy shop and being deaf, I was reminded of a customer in the Glasgow shop during my first full months as a full-timer at Games Workshop. Let's introduce young Ian, name changed to protect his identity, of course. I had recently started as a full-timer at Games Workshop, and as such, I spent time getting to know the local regulars, as well as the normal the normal duties of a retail staff member. I was a big fantasy player, and had a slight knowledge of 40k and the other games, like Epic, that was slowly being introduced to me. As I had seen a Saturday-Thursday regular myself, or I had been a Saturday-Thursday regular myself, for a bit, and had been promoted to weekend part-timer, I knew some of our older guys, but now found that the younger regulars were looking up to me in a different light. As such, I was expected to give answers to rules queries, be the referee in game disputes, and lastly, deal with the problem regulars whenever they turned up. Ian was seen as one of the problems with the younger gamers. Okay. I had noticed Ian in passing, mainly because he was deaf. He was a young lad of around 11 or 12 years of age, showed up alone every Saturday and hung around the introduction tables for a few hours, watching the staff use the intro tables to introduce new players, or see the regular lads have a quick, fun game with a few units from their own armies if the shop was quiet. He always had a smile for everybody, and didn't seem to really bother the gamers. He was just happy to watch. Then, he seemed to leave without anybody noticing, only to show up the next Saturday. One Saturday, a couple of lads asked to speak to me concerning Ian. Okay, he had been watching them and two further friends play fantasy on a table, using their new armies. A few units each side. They told me that Ian was being annoying and suspicious, and eventually revealed that he was suspected of stealing their dice or models. I looked over to see Ian smiling away, intent on watching the game and looking at the dead models taken off the field. I asked the two lads to return to their friends, and I would keep an eye on Ian. As I watched, I saw him hide a few dice under his hand, and, when the friends looked around for them, he would reveal the hidden dice and nervously smile before handing them back. It was obvious the friends did not like this. My attention was taken but with a customer needing help, and when I was finished, Ian had left. Next Saturday, I saw Ian enter the shop and watched him from a discreet distance. How he wandered around the shop, watching the games on the tables, looking at boxes and blister packs, and flicking through the fantasy army lists. He especially hung around any fantasy games, and again, I saw him hide some dice, or pick up models placed in the dead pile. And I'd made my decision. I had to deal with the Ian problem. It was a quiet shop, and I walked over to him, gestured to him, and spoke. He had hearing aids in, but he had covered his ears and shook his head, indicating that he couldn't hear. No problem. I used a little sign language, and he just looked at me quizzically, not knowing what I had signed. This might be more difficult than I thought. Do you know what I think is going on here, man? I think he can hear you through his hearing aids, but he's acting deaf so he doesn't have to, answer any questions. That's just me. That's just me. Pointing to me, and then to him, then to the fantasy table, I gestured rolling dice. He took a moment to work out if I meant to play a game, and when I nodded yes to his gesture back, "What, me and you?" You could have thought all of his Christmases had come at once. His smile was ear to ear, as I took him over and played an intro game with him, with me taking time to show the numbers on the plastic stick. We were what we called the swords of movement. Yeah, those big plastic whippy sticks. The red ones. Yeah, I remember those. I held up 3 or 4 fingers, then pointed to show the number to roll, and acted out what a snotty elf was, and a grubby goblin. I don't think he stopped smiling once all through the game. Of course, by the end, a lot of the younger regulars had gathered around to watch the lunatic staff member lurch about imitating a weedy goblin, or strutting around like an elf, looking down his nose at the world. You see, I realised his hiding dice or figures was his only way around communicating with somebody, hoping to introduce himself non-verbally. Turns out he was mute as well. As someone wanting to be a part of the game, or even just wanted to be noticed by some of the regular lads. After the game, he quickly left the shop, and I swear he was at least 6 inches off the ground, walking on air. I had a chat with young gamers and explained, as he was deaf and mute, he thought he was being funny to try and be friends with them, and hoped they would spread the word he was okay, an okay guy, and just wanting to join in the game. Dude. That's really cool, man. That's really, really cool. These are the kind of staff members you need to get behind. If you're at Games Workshop, these are the kind of guys you want to get behind. Over the next few months, I played a few more intro games with him, getting the other lads to let him roll dice for one of their units if a group came in for a smaller battle game, and finally helped me with new gamers being introduced into the hobby. The day came when I found him asking a new customer if he could show him how to play, and after a few moments hesitation, Ian ran him through an intro game of Warhammer Fantasy. Dude, he's come a long way. Like being a mute almost to showing somebody a very complicated war game. Good man. Ian became a mascot of the shop, and I have lots of small stories about him. The hour explaining about Nagash and undead being especially embarrassing for me. Ian loved his undead, and I think he wore out the shop army book with his constant perusing through it. He never bothered me while I was with customers, and always clapped and danced at games along with the good rolls and outcomes of games he watched. He got a box of undead skeletons from somebody once. We never found out who, and I helped him glue and paint the box up in the shop. One of the other lads explained through some signs that a big battle game took place on Sundays, as he was a regular there too, and he should come along. Just before Christmas, I was told a woman had come in and was asking for me. I came through from the back office, and she introduced herself as Ian's mum. She was roughly my age, around 30, and had come in to thank me. I told her it was a pleasure to have Ian around, but she then went on to explain. She was a single mum who had struggled to get Ian the support he needed. Alright, I'm just going to come out and say this. Alright. This is going to sound really odd, right? If this woman's single... Oh, yeah, she is a single mum. Alright, dude. If you're anywhere near a good-looking or normal-looking dude, her ovaries are exploding right now because she's got a son there who needs a lot of help, right? And this dude who has a job, a paying job, has been helping him out and is like really nurturing him and being a father figure to him. She has turned up to scope you out, my friend. Like I'm telling you now. They're always on the lookout for new daddies, as they should do, right? As a mother should do, you know what I mean? She's always on the lookout for positive male role models to have around. And yeah, you are in her crosshairs, my man. I'm telling you. This may not come up again in the Hobby Nightmare, I'm telling you, you're in her crosshairs. Let's go on a bit more, shall we? And she also wants to thank you as well. Don't get me wrong, right? But there is an ulterior motive here, I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Right, let's jump in. So, she was a single mum who had struggled to get Ian the support he needed, explaining he couldn't read and refused to attend a specialised school for the deaf to learn sign language. Coming from a rough area of Glasgow, she had worried that he would take a bad path in the future, angry and confused in life. He was often found to have skipped school, even though he was obviously intelligent and very quick thinking. But recently, he had asked for a book for the first time in his life, and asked to attend a school to learn sign language and how to read. She couldn't believe the change in him, and what was an undead? Brilliant. What is an undead? Yeah, awesome. He wouldn't stop telling her about it. I took her over to the fantasy section and introduced her to the undead section, giving her a quick rundown of the army. I then pointed out some boxes he might like, along with the army book, and she promised to come back to get some things once she'd been paid. Ian came in after Christmas to build his box set and show off his army book. He also explained how he was now enrolled in a school for the deaf. Dude, this is awesome. This is awesome. All I need now is for you to start, like, banging this mum, and this is going to be, like, the ultimate happy ending. Anyway, a few months later, I left the shop to go to work in mail order. And only saw Ian once more when on a trip home. He was with a group of school friends, but rushed up to speak with me, leaving a bunch of confused 13-year-olds to wonder who I was to Ian. He told me he was enjoying school, but not to tell his friends as it wasn't cool. I hope he's doing well, and he still remembers the good times in Games Workshop Glasgow, and maybe still has those skeletons and the gash models somewhere. This is the part of Games Workshop that I loved, the shop being truly inclusive to those who needed it, and nurturing positive and possibly life-changing ideals and life paths in someone struggling with life. I see some of this in your own shows, helping and advising those who also struggle, and I hope in some way the story will help too. That there will be those who do see and will help set those who feel lost or isolated back on track. Keep up the good work, have a drink of tea, and keep those rants going. Cheers, man. Yeah, I agree. I was literally about to say, the energy of your Hobby Nightmare there towards the end is literally the energy of the channel. Well, that's what I want it to be anyway. That's the energy of the channel. We no hobbyist left behind over here. Yeah, so you didn't end up banging the mum though. That's sorry. I'm awful, man. I'm awful. Yeah, it's not. I just got a vibe there. I was sure that's how it was going to go, but I was also sure this was going to be a Hobby Nightmare about, thieving children at your store. So yeah, this went in multiple ways I didn't expect it to, which is cool. Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow with some more 40k rantage. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one. Bye now.